And just to go into our final initiative, which still very much in its infancy stage. So we have a few phases that we take our solutions through. And phase one is basically when we are just doing the exploration of the market need for a solution. So a lot of the ones you saw in health sciences, finance, even the climate are kind of in phase two or approaching phase two, where we're actually putting these solutions out in the real world. This one is very near and dear to my heart, and was kind of the first use case that Jennifer mentioned this at the top of the program, that I started developing almost over 3 years ago now, which had to do with this idea of personal data assets. And we've talked about this a little bit, which is how do you incentivize positive behavior in the real world through the idea of creating or being able to capture the outcomes of such behavior, capturing those as assets, and then being able to utilize those assets to gain some sort of reward. And coming from a background in gaming, my thinking went to essentially creating a narrative platform where people would be able to engage with things in the real world, but from a narrative perspective, but be rewarded with assets that were not just virtual assets like in a video game, but that had actual real world value. And that's when I met Jennifer, and we ended up, building a lot more. But this is still very important to us, this idea both of being able to develop a portfolio of data assets for a person, for a community. It's also very, very applicable to the agricultural example that we saw. What we are actually developing is a portfolio of assets for these farms and farmers. There's no reason why we can't do the same thing for every individual, where just like, we talked about credit card miles and other alternate sources of value, there's no reason why our data can literally not become a portfolio of assets for us. And these data economic nodes that we were talking about become essentially the gatekeepers between us and the rest of the world that is essentially managing. This becomes the representative almost of creating, managing, and helping us gain value of our data assets. So we've been talking a lot about enterprise use cases so far. We've been working on this idea of a personal data asset platform that's backed by a telecom network. And we've had some very interesting conversations with some telecom companies already about how something like this could be brought to life. Obviously, very, very big picture thing. But then also looking at specific use cases for what such a platform can enable. So we've been thinking about creating this platform that, as I said, is essentially a narrative or an entertainment platform. It's a storytelling platform, but that is geared to drive empathetic, positive behavior through narrative. And there are three aspects that we are looking at. We are looking at how to drive positive civic behavior in the real world. We are looking to see how we can drive self-education and distributed education and self-learning, both as far as academics is concerned, but also in terms of arts and science and arts, especially in music and so on. And then a pure gaming and a pure interactive entertainment platform. And honestly, if anyone's interested, that's kind of something that I can go on for hours about. I would love to have conversations about. So so that's where we're at. And I want to just quickly introduce Peter, whom we've started working with recently on some of these ideas. Peter is a very, very established and well-respected creative, and has been helping us kind of solidify this idea of driving empathy through narrative. So maybe Peter, you can introduce yourself and give us a couple of your early thoughts on that concept.
Sure. Well, Ark and I go back to our Microsoft days where we actually worked in gaming together. So we kind of cemented some of this this passion for gaming. And personally, I've always been a storyteller. I'm a published novelist. I'm a composer. Most of my work involves the marriage of music and of storytelling in order to create some sort of emotional reaction. I sit on panels all the time around the country on storytelling and fiction. And it's really kind of true that most modern storytelling is centered on some sort of emotional reaction to the character or the situation. New York publishers and even online platforms and games increasingly, and by the way, this extends even into the corporate world, as Ark and I know, when you get into scrums with PR teams, it's really all about personalizing the story in some way that creates emotional attachment. So I've got a couple of IP that I've developed that really dovetail very, very well with what Ark and his team are building around advancing story with an emotional premise that would solicit behaviors or actions, but from the participants on the basis of rewarding good behavior. And it's actually a really exciting idea, because as much as it's important for us to have all kinds of stories, the stories that contribute to the public good are the stories that last, are the stories that most modern storytellers agree are the important ones to be told. And this will be a platform, I think, that accomplishes both things. So I'm excited to be part of it.
Thanks so much, Peter, and couldn't be more excited to be working with you again on something that's, honestly, like I've been thinking about for almost 20 years now. So I think we are kind of at the end of our segment with our partners, and there's a lot more, obviously, that we could be talking about. But I'll just wrap us up with a few thoughts just around what we've heard here. We've been talking a little bit about the big picture implication of data economics and data economic networks. But what happens once these data economic networks start propagating? We are seeing them within specific industries, within specific industry verticals. And this idea of an alternate source of value, an alternate source of wealth for individuals and organizations, this portfolio of data assets, is just one of many large implications of data economic solutions and these data economic networks getting implemented and expanding. We've already looked at the classes of problems, very hard problems and opportunities that can start getting addressed by data economics. We've already talked about the idea of what happens to the value of the underlying data when it's assetized, and the fact that it becomes proportional to the number of new data assets that you can actually derive from that. What happens, and this is such an interesting idea from an economics perspective that Jennifer and I have talked about a lot, which is, what happens to the traditional economic loop, where usually the source of value or the markers of tokens of value in an economic system is introduced by a third party, and there is a scarce amount of it, whether it's money or whatever else. But in this case, we are giving the tools to the people who are doing the work, so people who are actually producing the outcomes, to generate these markers of value, these markers of utility that they can then utilize to gain new value. This completely changes the fundamental economic loop in a data economy versus a traditional economy, which again we can explore for probably years. And what's happening is that we're creating, as these data economic networks form, a layer between the traditional currency and financial systems and goods and services, where there was only one kind of connection that we could make in terms of expressing value, which was goods and services, or things and money. But now you have obviously things and money, but you have data asset and money, you have data asset and goods and services, and you have data asset and data asset. So we have these massive opportunities to broaden the vocabulary to express and transact value through data economic networks. And if you take this one step further, then you see that as these data economic networks start developing within industries, they're going to start connecting. Just like we've seen the finance platform, the data economic derivatives platform, and our healthcare platform, as well as our industrial traceability platform, starting to connect and create these network of networks, so to speak. And what happens then? That is specifically the way that, for example, the internet was built, is that it's a network of networks. And so we envision this idea of a data economic internet that can get layered over the existing internet as a representation of a completely alternate and additional source of value that our economic language has been able to capture. And that's what we've been doing for the past 3 years. As I said, we've been working as a research alliance across a few organizations and individuals over the past 3 years to develop the science of data economics and the Lydian technology that we've talked about. This year, our focus has been on bringing these organizations, individuals, research, and IP together under a single umbrella that we call the Data Economics Company. And honestly, today is the first time that we are discussing Lydian or the data economics company outside our ecosystem. And honestly, we couldn't have gotten here without the contributions of our team, some of whom you've met, some of whom hopefully you will meet, and all of the partners and advisors who you just met, as well as many that, again, we hope you will meet in the future. And shout out to Mark O'Neill, if you're there. I know we couldn't get you on here, but again, couldn't be here without you. So Jen, I guess it's back to you, maybe, to wrap us up.
Thanks. Yeah, so I think thank you for all of those who have been able to hang on. Again, we'll be putting this content out as recording, so those who have to drop, we're just going to wrap it up here and then go into the Q&A after a quick wrap up. So, to just let people know where all of this is going, going back to our original, our origins, I guess, as a group, this did really start as a group sharing research questions, sharing ideas, and we see that type of intellectual exchange is really critical to continuing what we're all doing to advance the field of data economics. So, Arga, I'll let you talk a bit about, what we have to come.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the key values that we have is to, empower people to participate in data economics, learn about the science, and contribute to advancing the field intellectually, academically, and with practical implementations. And I believe that we wanted to have a little chat with Michelle, and you wanted to introduce the Alliance.
Yeah. And I mean, there's a pretty significant task ahead to help communicate and educate around all of this. So Michelle, if you could introduce yourself and talk a bit about that, it would be fantastic.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so I'm Michelle Savangsuk, and I oversee all of the creative. From my background, I was formerly at Disney, and I oversaw the design development team for Disney.com. After that, I've been working as a creative consultant and freelance designer, and also been working closely with ARCA for the last few years on various projects. So yeah, we are announcing the formal expansion of our research collective into the Data Economics Research Alliance. The objective and vision of the Alliance is to discuss research priorities and publications, but we will also be forming targeted groups around specific topics and industry challenges. Oops, Arthur, you muted, I think.
Yeah, we'll have a lot more information about the Alliance, and we have Lydian Insider, which is launching very soon. Everyone participating in this session as a panelist or audience is going to have information very soon on how to access and get into Lydian Insider. We'll have a ton of very cool stuff on there. So if you enjoyed this session, you're going to have a really good time up there, I think. And joining the Alliance is really as easy as signing up to be part of the research collaborations. Absolutely no cost, no obligations other than participation in the intellectual exchange. That's how we've built everything that you've seen so far. And that's how we plan to keep advancing the science.
Mm-hmm. Yep. We are also going to be heavily utilizing our publishing platform to bring a bunch of content to all of our audiences, starting out with the Lydian Insider publication, and which is launching before the end of the year, which is soon, and followed shortly by the Lydian, which will be our destination site for data economics research and academic content, as well as showcases on how organizations are using the science of data economics. And we also continue to record podcasts and videos through our series, Brave New Data.
Thanks, Michelle.
Thank you. And, I can't emphasize enough the importance of including communications education via the publishing platform for data economic solutions overall, and for the overall development of a discipline like data economics that needs to make abstract, technical, mathematical concepts accessible to people from all industries and backgrounds. So thank you, Michelle, for helping us lead the charge. And everything that you've seen, thank you, Alice, for your shout out, but a big part of it is Michelle helping us condense these really abstract and difficult and sometimes very technical concepts into things that people can look at and be happy.
Yeah. The abstract is the key word, I think, in a lot of this. I throw that around a lot. And it makes for a very interesting design challenge, which I actually really do enjoy very much. And yeah, to kind of help make these concepts accessible, which is really important for us, we're going to be hosting a number of virtual sessions throughout next year and later part of 2021. So such as live conferences and forums to help further develop all aspects of data economics through this collaborative alliance-based approach. And throughout this time, the content on Lydian will continue to grow, which is fantastic. And we are really excited and really looking forward to all the contributions that will be developed through the Alliance.
Thanks, Michelle. I think I'll wrap us up here, and thank you everyone for hanging out with us. This was so much fun, and thank you, Jennifer, for guiding us through all this today and just in general. Really appreciate your help, and for every single member of our team. This was just a start. This was literally the first time, as I said, that we've talked about any of this stuff outside of our alliance and our collaborators. So a lot more is coming through Q1 through Q3, Q4 of next year. We are going to be actually rolling out a lot of these solutions. We're going to be talking a lot more publicly. We're going to have a series of these sessions like this one, with sessions that are more interactive and panels. So a lot is coming over the next 3 to 4 months, and we'd love for if you're on this call, or if you are watching this later, we absolutely want you involved. So we're going to reach out to you about Lydian Insider. Please sign up. We're going to make it super easy. We're going to have a ton of events that's going to be broadcast on Insider. We're going to send you emails when we have this, and talk to us. We are very interested. Everything that we've done so far, all of the folks you've seen so far, everything just came from like having a conversation, not really pitches or anything like that. So talk to us, read our stuff. If you want to work with us on building stuff, we are always open, and join the Alliance. It's super easy and really great way to stay in touch.